Hi, my name is Colton Hani.
The first time I met Colton, he showed up at my doorstep wanting to go to junior high camp with us. And so I gave him all the information, and we got to hang out for an entire week up at Camp Absarkaha.
So I went to junior high camp 2 years ago with Kelly and started to really experience what it meant to have fun with Jesus. I started to realize that it wasn't just a bunch of rules and regulations. I ended up inviting Christ into my life and really just starting the journey of a relationship with Him.
When we got back from camp, the boys asked if we could meet once a week for accountability. So starting on Tuesday nights, once a week, we met for Bible study and accountability, just talking how things are going and what the Lord's doing in their life. And it was a really neat time.
Shortly after coming back from the junior high camp and meeting with Kelly, and everything was just going so good. I just felt really high on my life. I was loving every minute of it. And shortly after that, I found out I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. It was back in the back of my head, wrapped around all my nerves, and I was going to need brain surgery to remove it. This kind of came as a pretty big shock to me, and I guess I was kind of mad at God right away. I felt like I accepted God into my life, and then God gave me a brain tumor. So from that point on, I kind of shut Him out of my life, and I kind of thought, I need to find something else to satisfy me if God can't. So after I kind of gave up on God, I started seeking that out in drugs and other relationships. I just kind of looked for anything and everything that might be able to replace God. I started getting really depressed and really hating life and very suicidal. And I started having really bad family issues because of all of this. I really just, no matter what I looked into, nothing would satisfy me. Nothing could take the place of God.
After everything was settled with the brain tumor being removed, he kind of had some trouble dealing with life and school. And so Janae and I were getting 3 to 4 phone calls a day from him and just asking for help and to pray for him because it was really a hard struggle learning to get back into the swing of life again.
I don't actually remember the first time I met Colton. I just remember seeing him around the house a lot with Kelly and a bunch of other boys. But the first time I really got involved in Colton's life was when his mother called us a little panicky because Colton had threatened to commit suicide, and Kelly and I dropped everything on an evening and ran up to the hospital to see him, and he was in a padded room and with his heads in his hand, and he didn't know what to do. It was at that point that my heart broke for that kid, and I realized that God had put him in our life for a reason, and I started developing a deep compassion for him, and so I started praying for him regularly.
He started really having trouble. He'd have one day where he was really high and things were going great, and then he would make a mistake, and it seems like he would just beat himself up over it. And he had trouble really finding a balance in his life. And so he was at home all the time and was no longer in high school because he was just struggling with high school. And so he stepped away from it.
And after the recovery, I kind of kept digging into drugs, and my depression and suicidal thoughts kept getting worse, and my anger kept getting worse. I would get into huge fights with my family, and eventually I just had to leave Bonanza for a while. So I went up and I moved in with my brother for a while, and I stayed with my brother. But my brother was an atheist, and a very strong atheist, and he liked to argue about God and try to just disprove God any way he could.
And when he got up there, he just slowly started cutting off the relationship and slowly started not answering his phone and not responding to emails. And so we kind of started getting a little worried and was having a just kind of hard time with it. Knowing that he wasn't really in a good place.
So while I was there, he was feeding me lies the whole time about how God wasn't real and how God didn't care about me. While I was there, I kind of just soaked it all in because I was so angry at God. that I started to believe all these lies about God and about myself. None of this helped me. It just made everything a lot worse.
Saying that he didn't know if he believed in the Lord anymore, and I knew that he was searching a lot and he was scared.
After he distanced himself and was not returning phone calls and not responding really in any way, I started really losing hope, feeling like we lost him.
One afternoon I just felt the Lord strongly tell me that I needed to text him, and so I texted him.
Then Janae called me and was asking me how I had been and was really worried about me and told me her testimony and the things that she went through. And then just asked if they could come pick me up and take me home.
Next morning, Kelly and I hopped in the car at 5 a.m. and drove all the way to Portland to pick him up.
Drove all the way back with me, and they let me stay with them for a week. And Kelly and I and Janae just kind of talked through that week, and I kind of just realized my potential and who I am in Christ and where I want to go with my life. I ended up rededicating my life to Christ and just pursuing some of those goals that I had that I kind of gave up on.
And that whole summer, we got him involved in vacation Bible schools, multiple summer camps, lots of youth group activities. Colton got baptized that summer in high school camp, and he just grew tremendously. His walk with the Lord deepened, and you could see it all over his face, and it was awesome.
Even after being back, I'm still struggling daily with depression and anger and frustration and sometimes wanting to go back to old habits. But I realize that nothing ever will truly satisfy me the way Jesus does. So I really just kind of been diving into His presence with another youth group, 2 youth groups now, and a part of a leadership team that we just all hold each other accountable. I'm working with children ministry at New Horizon. I've been playing guitar daily and playing on stage with Kelly at New Horizon doing worship. I've been going to summer camps as a behind-the-scenes SWAT guy, as just a student and as a counselor all together. And I just really noticed that the more that I dive into His presence, the more He starts to change my life and the more He starts to show up.
Through all of this that's gone on with Colton, we have been able to meet his mom and dad and actually become pretty good friends with him. We've gone over to their house and we've taken our kids and we've played with them and developed a relationship with them, and Colton's mom and sister and dad have come to church, and it's just been awesome developing this relationship with Colton and his family coming to know Christ through Colton himself. He has continuously been able to come over here and confide in me, and I have been able to pray with him and pray for him regularly, and he just knows that our home is a safe place, and that if he has any problems at home, he calls us. And he texts me a lot, asking me for prayer and for advice when he's at a loss with his own mom and dad or whatever's going on in his life. And I've just really enjoyed building that relationship with Colton and becoming like he's one of my own kids.